I don't know if you followed the first panel. After that we had the meet the speakers. I was jumping a bit around, and we had one speaker who had a really fantastic name for that, what he's doing, Steve Ball. He called it Hope Punk. So I hope we can take this word into account for today and maybe also tomorrow, and still doing a little bit of Hope Punk. And the projects of the second panel definitely will do that. Other things, Clara of Machina X, Claudia Ehrenhardt, you might have heard her panel. She reminded me that one of their shows, online-only shows, it will run over Telegram, called Homecoming, is still it's still accessible. So it will have some shows in April. You can buy tickets for it on the website of Machina X. So I just wanted to add that for everybody who's listened to the first panel. So speaking of Hope Punk, I think we have quite some media punks here, because one thing that influences our political landscape, and of course that's an important aspect of hope and of our current situation in the cultural sector, is social media. So Dirk, what are the thoughts behind the social media? And please now meet Dirk, the head of programming of today's conference.
Yeah, hello Paula. Yeah, the title of our panel today is Storytelling in Social Media. So social media are taking an increased part in our lives. It can be its own world for stories, or a shared world of narratives. Social media are taking the world over and expanded the space for storytelling. And it's absolutely not by surprise that theater, the storyteller in our culture, is getting interested in social media. And so also the space for storytelling in theater is expanded by social media, as we will see this afternoon. And it's not only the stories, also the fake news are greeting us from that transmedia stage. So that's what we want to hear, or what we will hear this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Dirk. So it's my great pleasure to announce our next speakers. The next speakers created a show that really feels like it was made specifically for the lockdown era. And it doesn't only feel like that, it has been made for it. And it's still running. You also can experience it yourself. Director Cosmea Spelleken and production manager Lotta Schweikert dared to make an adaptation of Goethe's classic novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther. But in the digital version, Werther emails his Lotta on eBay, not at a dance ball, chats with her on WhatsApp, and takes her on a first date in a Zoom video call. We as an audience experience everything, the whole story, through live recordings on Werther's computer screen. So it's really subjective storytelling. Werther.live is based in southern Germany, I think. It premiered last November, and it has already won a very important multimedia award. It was even featured in the New York Times. So welcome, Cosmea and Lotta, who will now tell us more about the advantages and challenges of such a digital endeavor.
Hi, Paula. Thanks for introducing us.
Hello, thank you very much. And I'm Cosmea. Nice to be here with you. Like, it's not really with you, but in some way we're with you. Yes, Lotta and I created with a beautiful group of people, actors and people behind the screen, Werther.live. And I think Paula actually introduced it pretty good already. So what was our intention to do that thing? Lotta and I originally come from film, not from theater, and we were really upset about what was going on at the first lockdown in Germany with the theaters, because what most of them were doing was filming old plays on the stage and just upload that videos. And we thought, okay, that's probably not the way it should be, because so many of our real life at the moment happens in social media on the screen, and there are stories happening online. So there must be some content that will work online too. like the whole storytelling should take place there. So we said we want to make up a story where the digital space is actually the stage and not just the stage is pushed into the digital space. And then we thought that the Werther story is quite good, suitable for that, because it's a letter novel. So when something works with writing letters, it could also work with writing emails. And I think, for give you a short impression how it looked, we just show you the trailer we made. Therefore, I share my screen with you. And I hope you can see it now. You should. So that's our website. And here we go with the trailer. It's unfortunately all in German, but we have English subtitles. So I hope you will be able to get it all.
Keine Ahnung, ich dachte, dass es vielleicht irgendwie merkwürdig ist, wenn wir einfach so telefonieren, ohne uns zu kennen. Aber ich weiß nicht, ich finde, es fühlt sich merkwürdig natürlich an.
Mann, Willi, ich bin so verwirrt. Ich weiß nicht. Ich habe dir doch von Lotta davon, dass ich sie kennengelernt habe über Kleinanzeigen. Keine Ahnung, wir haben jetzt ein paar Mal telefoniert und wir verstehen uns einfach. Willi, bin ich verknallt? Oder bin ich verliebt? Ich habe keine Ahnung, wie man diese Begriffe definiert. Und dann dachte ich, dann schreibe ich hier einfach irgendwie mal zurück, einfach in so einen lustigen Text. Ja, und dann hat mir aber nicht sie geantwortet, sondern, dreimal darfst du raten, wer? Ihr Freund, dem das Profil eigentlich gehört. Ich habe auch gedacht, es wird ganz komisch. Das ist es überhaupt nicht geworden. Ich habe das Gefühl, das machen wir irgendwie schon zum 100. Mal. Und das ist irgendwie sehr schön. Okay, Werther? Ja. Werther? Ja. Schau mir in die Augen, kleines Tippen auf den Tisch. Okay? Wie ist es mit dir? Ist es was Ernstes? Ja oder nein? Ganz einfache Frage. Keine Ahnung, ich kann das nicht so einfach beantworten. Ich glaube schon nicht. Du, ich kenne diesen Blick, verstehst du? Du bist schon wieder auf dem besten Weg, dich in irgendwas reinzusteigern. Und was soll ich jetzt machen?
Yes. There we go. That was the trailer. I hope it gave you a short impression. And maybe Lotta can tell you something more about like how the evening works in general.
Yeah, so on the website that Cosmea just quickly showed, Werther-live.de, there you can access the live stream where you can, if you bought a ticket first, then you get a code and then you can just sign in to the live stream that is just hosted via YouTube. So it's actually really easy to access, and it's also for us really easy to stream. And we do it via the OBS, a free software, and we stream it live every evening. And my responsibility during the evening is basically to know when we go in and out of the scenes. So we have little pauses in between where you just saw the typewriter that are our like breaks in between the scenes. And then we basically edit it live as if it was a movie and a theater experience combined. Yeah.
So as the audience, you are basically seeing all the time Werther's screen. So we're not filming people sitting in front of a webcam, but you're seeing everything that happens on Werther's screen. So it feels like a little bit like if you have hacked into his PC. And what we want to focus today on is how we made up characters that never has an entrance on stage, or you will never really see, except of if they're zooming with each other. but you will always just see their social media profiles. And in case of Werther, you will see how his desktop looks, like how his structure is, what kind of stuff he keeps on his desktop, which kind of tabs he has open all the time, stuff like that. And that was a real challenge for us because, yeah, of course, when you're on stage, you can characterize a character by giving him a special kind of costume or giving him a special kind of lighting. And at movies, you can do all stuff with the scenography around him to shape a character. But it was really hard and new for us to discover how that would work online and that you really get a feeling of who those persons are. So yeah, we're telling you a little bit today of how we stage those characters in digital spaces. What to start with?
I think in the beginning it's good to talk about the platforms that we used, and we focused on Instagram as the main platform because we thought it's for the generation that we are in and the young people that are Werther, Lotte and Wilhelm, that would be the most interesting platform to show themselves and to present themselves. Basically, also they have also Facebook accounts, but nowadays we feel like Facebook isn't used as much anymore. So we didn't really focus that much on the Facebook side, but they exist. And we also thought, okay, which character does which platform and how do they do it? And for example, Albert, the boyfriend of Lotte and later fiance, also has a really traditional blog where he posts about his volunteering and how he's saving the planet, which Wilhelm and Werther later mock a little bit.
Yeah, so we gave all the characters their own social media profiles and old social media identities. So for Werther, for example, we decided, okay, he's probably not the kind of guy who would express himself so much in social media, but he's doing a lot of art, like it's given in the novel itself, where like in the original, he's painting all the time. And we thought, okay, maybe nowadays he would make some collages and upload them on his profile. Yeah, so what we did to do that and to get a real shape of the characters was doing mood boards.
And I think that's really where because we're both in more from the film background than from the theater background, and that's where our film background really kicked in because we're really used to making mood boards for concepts and for like production firms where you'll say, oh, these are my moods, this is how it's supposed to look. And we actually made that for the profiles as well to see what is the style, what are the colors, what are the kind of pictures that they would post.
Yeah, and then like, for example, this were moods we collected for the best friend of Werther, Wilhelm, called Willi in our term. And yeah, we gave those moods then to the actors and asked them if they would have similar ones from their private lives or if they could take some. So we faked some pictures, but we also went back into the personal picture stock of the actors. And that went pretty good, actually. So I wasn't expecting to get those many interesting pictures.
It was also a strange experience for them because it's so private. So a lot of them were like private party pictures, their own birthday pictures they took when they went around and traveled. So a lot of their own personality is in the character's personality, which was strange to them, I think.
Yeah. So for example, like this were the moods we used for Wilhelm. And now I can show you his social media account, how it is right now. Yeah, so that's him now. Yeah, we worked here with a mixture of stock footage we got and we bought and pictures we took over the last half a year and private pictures of them. And yeah, what we really like, it was really interesting because we went really into a personality studies here. So we discovered for each character a special way. For example, we discussed, okay, what kind of hashtags would they use? Like Wilhelm, for example, he is always making really, really short sentences down to his posts and really funny hashtags. Playing a lot, yeah. So this was his kind of language we decided to use, or when he's chatting with Werther and we only see the chats, we decided, okay, Wilhelm is definitely the kind of guy who is using a lot of GIFs. So he's sending GIFs all the time. And then when we look at Werther,
and Wilhelm also doesn't really care about like if he makes spelling mistakes, if he's a bit like if he's stepping on other people's toes, he doesn't really care, because he's just, I'm fun and the world needs to see it and I don't care.
totally. And Werther is not expressing himself that much, and he's a little bit more melancholic and more, yeah, I'm not showing so much of myself, I'm a mysterious guy. So he's often posting literally, like literature quotes on his collages and doing very little hashtags. And when Werther is chatting with somebody, we decided that he wouldn't be the guy who would use that much emojis, but probably more like writing the classic smiley with point, and I don't know the English term for that, but I think you get what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, or for example, which was also interesting, doing the moods for Lotta, like the love interest of Werther's. So those were the pictures we collected for her. And we also said, probably it's also based on the film background from us, that we would like to give all the characters a color profile. So for Lotta, we decided, okay, she's a person who has a lot of warm colors like red, brown, orange, a little bit of green, but not the expressive green, but more like the forest green. Really relaxed, a little dreamy, flowers, golden lights, really being an autumn girl. And then we can see what came out of that later on.
And as you maybe can see now, we were a bit surprised that it really matches this much or this good, because we haven't looked at the moods for a while, and then we went back to them and rediscovered that some of them look like almost the same, and that we really managed also with Clara together. And she has a twin sister, which is also good, so we have double the amount of pictures. That we really were able to catch this mood. And in the play, which is also a fun side fact, because the seasons change and it gets autumn and then winter, also the colors and the moods change a little bit in the profiles. So during the play, new content gets uploaded all the time by Cosmea and Leo, and they then you can basically see in December, Lotta has a hat on and there's snow outside, and it's not the summery feeling that we see here anymore. That's also a fun little thing we did.
Yeah, so we used like the amount of uploading content was also a way for us to show, okay, time passed by during the play. So when you start the play, our playing time is summer, and when the play ends, it's December, it's Christmas Eve. So yeah, you're living through a whole half a year on Instagram there, right there. And yeah, this was basically the way that we decided to shape those characters. And it was really interesting to work together with the actors, because for them, it was a real challenge to get so much interpersonal memories that they had to use for the performance. And also all the actors are sitting at home at their private homes. So yeah, it was really challenging to find a line between character and person and actor, which was kind of good in some ways, because we said, okay, we don't want to have theatrical acting in front of the laptop, because it just wouldn't work. Like, it would work when you're on a big stage and you have to fill a whole room. But if you want to get this really private feeling that we're trying to create with this play, they have to act like if they're not acting. So it's much more also based on film acting, but also slightly different. So it really doesn't matter if they spell something wrong, or if they mix up some lines, or like they have a lot of space in the play to improvise what they're saying. And the scenes are slightly different every evening that they're playing. And this was also a big part, like to find a language for the characters. So basically we had to find a direct language for the actors, and we had to find a chat language for them. And also when talking about scenography again, or costumes, we had to find a digital scenography scenography and digital props and real life props that they use when they're having a scene that's taking place in Zoom. So at one place, Lotta calls Werther on FaceTime, or is it on Skype? I don't remember, to congratulate him to his birthday. And therefore, we have a birthday card in Werther's room and a birthday present he got. So we have those analog props plus the digital props that are used during the scenes. And this was really mind-twisting in some ways in the production. So we had really to construct pretty hard how to get along with that stuff and how to manage all that.
And that was also a big challenge for Johnny, our main actor, because he has to do so much technical stuff in addition to his acting. And that was a big challenge in the beginning to get everything right. So for different scenes, he has different browsers where all the tabs are opened. And then also when his mood changes and the feelings change, we wanted to represent that through the desktop wallpaper background that changes. And there are so many little things that he needs to think about. For example, also the rain you heard in the trailer is actually via an app, Noisely, that you can put different sounds in. And he also has to think about turning that on and off in the scene, which he sometimes forgets. So there's so many things that he needs to remember as well.
So it was a real challenge for the actors to be the technician and an actor by themselves. But I think at the end, all those little detail works kind of really work out, because when you see the screen of a person all the time, which is something really, really personal, like you can compare it to reading the letters from somebody from 50, 60, 200 years ago, or reading their diaries, like going into someone's PC or someone's cell phone is a real private act, and it's a real private zone in there. So we figured out that this is a real interesting way to go really deep into the emotions of characters. So for example, like Lotta said, the desktop background changes with all the scenes and getting darker by the mood. Werther is getting more sad. And also the tabs he has open, we really figured out in which scene, which tab should be open. So at the beginning, he's really interested in sort of art stuff and checking out Lotta's profile all the time. It's open at the browser tab most of the times. And the later it gets, he gets much more into dark stories, like into sad stories, is connecting himself to suicide stories from literature and looking for stuff like that. So during the play, if there's a moment where you don't want to watch the actors, you can also just take a minute and watch the screen and look what's hidden in there. So we try to build up a real world for the characters to make it look pretty realistic. And I think it kind of did. Like, of course, there are still a lot of technical problems we are often dealing with. So, for example, if the internet is just not good for reasons we don't can help each other, why it is like that. Stream still breaks down sometimes. But we get really interesting and pretty nice results for that. So many people tell us that the play feels extremely close to their lives, and especially also for a young audience, we discovered that this is really interesting. So once there was a school class after the play talking to us on Zoom, and one of the kids there, I think he was 15 or 16, he told us, like, I think this is the first time that I felt like somebody would make theater for us. So it's a reality I can connect with. And I think this is really interesting. And we get this feedback pretty often, that the play is really intimate and that it feels pretty personal. So, yeah.
I think the thing also with the feedback is amazing, because whenever you do a normal theater play, maybe then afterwards 2 or 3 people come up to you and say something about it. But this number of people coming to us and giving us feedback online is so much bigger, and the stakes are so much less high, because you can just write on Instagram. And so many people, just like Cosmea said, told us how intimate the play felt, especially in this pandemic times where your screen is with you every day, all the time. That seeing a screen feels like your own screen, and you're so used to seeing it that it feels like a little bit of voyeuristic to see, so to be so deep into someone else's screen, and then also like it turns into your own screen because it is your own screen that you're watching it on. And we also heard from different people that it is a really different theater experience being in front of your laptop or tablet alone in your room and watching this develop on your screen. And this is just like Cosmea said, one of the best feedbacks we had, and one of the biggest results that we think we did with Werther.live to make a theater experience that feels intimate and it feels real.
Yeah, and it's a real interesting thing. Like when the play is performed, you can get in touch with the characters via social media. So you can always chat with Werther, or you can leave a comment on one of the pictures, or you can like Lotta's pictures or chat with Wilhelm, everything like that. And usually the actors text back when they're not playing at the moment, but when they have a silent scene or something. And also after or before the play, you can text with the characters. So it's getting some immersive touch there, because the characters and the profiles of them, they're online all the time, not just when you screen it and when we're performing. So it's getting really close to your everyday reality when you can find your characters that you were reading about and seeing on stage for years in different theaters, and suddenly they're on social media and you can actually chat with them. I think this is a real interesting thing because it opens up a pretty new way, yeah, of telling stuff. And yeah, like what Lotta said, that you're experiencing it on your screen. Right now we're getting asked from sort of theater festivals if we want to perform there, and now there's a discussion going on in which way we should perform this play. Like, of course, we can put, if it's possible one day again, 500 people in a room and just perform live and screen the whole performance on a big screen in front of them. But I think it wouldn't be the same result, because like this intimate feeling you get, and this voyeuristic feeling you get, and this emotional touch that really connects to your own living room at the moment, you get when you watch it alone at home on your laptop or on your tablet or even on your smartphone, even if it's a little small then. But it's really theater that is totally made for being performed on a screen and in 3D, 2D, like not in 3D. Yes, I think that's basically everything we wanted to say. Or do we have 10 more minutes to fill, because we still have lots
Thank you so much. You have 3 more minutes, but that just means we have 3 more minutes for the Q&A later. So I will take them if you don't need them.
Sure.
Thank you so much for these insights. I think it's very interesting because you pointed out something I think very unique for your generation. When I'm thinking of characters and character development, I usually think of conflicts and motives, and you added this picture, this whole photo aspect and color aspect to it. So I think that's also something we are thinking we're seeing our reality. And you did it on Instagram. It was very Instagrammy, if you can say so. And that directly leads me to my next guest. So thank you very much, Cosmea and Lotta. If you would be so kind to disable your cameras now. Perfect. We see you later. Just a reminder to our audience, you can ask Cosmea and Lotta questions. You can do so by commenting under the live screens on YouTube or Facebook. You can add them as comments on the website. You can ask them in our lineup apps, and you can even write it per email. So one of our staff is collecting it and gives it to me. So we can ask later in our Q&A the directors a little bit more about their process and their work. So now I just announced it. We've seen how Instagram might work, and we will see even more. I'm very happy to welcome another young and really innovative artist here. Her name is Tonj. She's a young director. She comes from Germany, but she studied or still studies in Austria and Switzerland. For her diploma project, she went ahead and invented a whole new genre, the Insta game. That is a social media show on Instagram where users play specific roles and have to solve clever puzzles to advance the story. At the end, they even have to make an important decision and influence the ending of the story. her show, The Cult of the Dead Cow, or as she calls it, The Cow. It was live and accessible for 20 days in December. I am super excited to hear more about this gamification aspect on Instagram. So welcome, Laura.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, hi. I always want to introduce this kind of topic with some kind of introduction to social media. I learned that every time I try to explain what I do or what I'm interested in to create, I sometimes look into some puzzled faces. So I hope that's okay to start with some insights or my perspective on social media, and then later show you what I've created in the past few months. I think I will say a few things some of you may know, especially people who are very active and very interested in social media in general. For those people, it's always helpful to take a few steps back to question the platform. And for everyone else who doesn't have any bond with social media, feel free to have some more excitement here now. So wait, but therefore I have a presentation. And it's this one. It's uploading. Yay, okay, hi. So I decided to call my talk thingy here, Performative Games and Gamified Performances on Social Media. I will come back to what I mean by, where is it? There, no, there. By performative games and what I mean by gamified performances. There is a difference, and I'm still struggling to find a definition for what I do. This is for now my solution. But yeah, I will start with social media, what I understand by it, and it starts with something basic, actually. So I think social media and telling stories on social media is something that is actually the thing. So social media are there so people can tell their stories, and they always have been there because of that. Social media platforms like MySpace back in the days, they were there so people can play the protagonist in their own story and write blogs about their perspective on their world, on the world, and with audio-visual platforms like Instagram also, they can even create more visual perspectives, and it's all valid. And this is actually also a thing many people say when I say I want to create fiction or immersive fiction, interactive fiction, games, whatever on social media, that many people answer, but it's fake anyway. The people go on social media and create something that's not real anyway. And that's true. And I learned the term para-theatrical infrastructure by Arne Vogelgesang in a talk a year ago. And I think that's still a term I like to use. It kind of describes, as I've understood, that this infrastructure on social media is already made to show something, to create something, and to tell something. And by this structure of having accounts, or basically having accounts, you can even play a role. You can even create your own body. You play with, you play the role you want to play. And this basic structure is already kind of made to kind of theatrical in some way. And so I really like to go more deeper into this term in my personal practice. And I also like this idea of digital co-presence, which I learned from Caspar Weimann. He's an artist who co-founded the collective Untitled.Live. And also a year ago in the lockdown, when everyone was talking about co-presence and physical co-presence, there were many people saying that digital co-presence isn't the same, which is obvious. Because I think earlier in some of the talks earlier, someone said because the physical presence in the room creates some kind of new tension between energies, and this is obviously something that can't happen online. But there is digital co-presence, and I really think that especially people who grew up in the digital space have a different understanding or a different feeling of what that means. I think I know many people who would say they meet their friends online, or who meet their friends to play games or whatever. And I think that's super valid and shouldn't be, taken down or whatever, just because it's not the established way of like meeting someone in co-presence in the real space and like experiencing a show together or whatever. So those two things are very important to me when I explain what I do, that social media per se have the structure that allows to tell story, and also like this awareness of digital co-presence, that's actually a thing. By the moment you create your own account, you decide what kind of pictures you upload, you decide what kind of words you use, you decide what kind of fonts you use, whatever. It all tells something about you. And even if you don't share anything, that also tells something about you. So I think by going on those platforms, by having those accounts, by sharing whatever you think about the world, you kind of are already part of the play, if you want to have it like this. Yeah. And I think if we think about social media as a stage, I think it's also important, or at least for me, to really have fun with it and to really like, or being interested in this platform and all their functions and all their mechanisms, because of also every single platform has their own mechanisms, their own dynamics, their own aesthetics, their own ways of communication, their own ways of interaction. And so, yeah, I think being curious how this works, being curious and observing how this stage is built is essential for me, at least. I'd like to observe a lot. I'm on all the different platforms, just observing, and then getting to know the stage I use. In real life, when I use a stage, I don't just think just because there's a platform, I just put anything on it. I also look how big the space is, how many people are in the audience, where's the tech, where's the light, how does that work? I try to have a feeling for the stage I want to use and not putting anything on it. So yeah, in combination of theater and social media, I think those few thoughts are important for me to communicate before I show you what I do. Then the next part is, oh well, maybe I should skip. Thinking. No, I don't. So what I did was, or still do, is creating fictions on social media. That means something, I'm really interested in what Werther.live just said, because I do it in such a different approach. I think I really want to interrupt people's everyday life on social media. So I kind of want to create experiences they are shocked by, like games they haven't played ever, and creating filter games. I think it's super interesting to see like the similarities and also the differences between Werther.live and the things like my approach. Maybe later we can talk about that. I think it's super interesting. Anyway, so I think the games I create could be something the people are shocked by in the moment. They go into the games and forget that they are playing games right now. So that means we have this platform. I think I should show you first what I do before I go on. So the reason why I'm here is the Cult of the Dead Cow, or the Kult der Toten Kuh, which was my my diploma project at Theatrical. It was a 3-week gamified performance, as I would say. I think it's a performance that had game elements, but wasn't really a full game as maybe game designers would call it. And it was about hacktivism and digital awareness. And it was made to catch the people in their everyday life and making them question this platform itself every day with the characters we created, with the games we created. And now I'm gonna show you something. Okay. So this is the Cult of the Dead Cow. It was live from November until late December. And this is the protagonist. We told that she got hacked many times and that she got sick of it and really wants to find out what's going on there. So she tried to contact a hacker who might help her, which is this person. And he tries to help her because he's also sick of Instagram and everything around it, is super skeptical and is always connecting with people who are as well critical about it and finds out new statistics and stuff like that. So they together found out, and now it's getting a little bit surreal. They found out that this person, which is the oldest algorithm of Instagram, is involved in the hacking attacks against Asle, the protagonist. And they found out that Instagram made experiments with Asle's data to create deepfakes of her. And so Backbone Red radicalized and wanted to delete Instagram or destroy Instagram for good. So he, together with all the followers he had, they created a virus that should destroy Instagram for good in the end. And then something happened that we didn't plan when we created this whole thing. We planned that Asle would just find a way to hack him back and it will all be a good ending for whoever. But what happened was that the people were so into the thing that they created their own group against the person, like against the hacker. And they were so into it that they spied on each other. They were, in the end, they were like 2 groups of people who were so into the arguments for to quit Instagram or to delete Instagram on his side. And then there was the group around Asle who were so skeptical about just deleting this platform out of nowhere. So we didn't plan that at all. We were so surprised by that. They created those 2 groups, those radicalized groups in the end, and they spied on each other and they didn't trust each other anymore. And they kind of tried to, manipulate the whole storyline, and they did. So what happened was we had to decide in the end, kind of, if Asle should win or not. But we were so puzzled, like for days, because it was so intense, that the people even created their own accounts to have like a new fresh account to talk to this hacker guy. So this person, like this hacker character isn't suspicious anymore. And they kicked Asle out of their group because they were afraid that because he could hack her, that he could have access to this chat. And it was super intense for all of us. And we had to decide every single minute what we should do, like as a next dramaturgical, directional, whatever decision. So yeah, it was very unexpected. We tried to have a live situation there going on, and that we like live render the whole game over those 3 weeks, but we didn't at all expect that the people are so into it in the end, because it was also very surreal, and we didn't think that they would go into that as much, but they were, and we were happy about it. And I think without those people, der Kult der Toten Kuh wouldn't be as, from us as the team, amazing as it was. So we were kind of happy that this happened, like that with our few filter games, which you can play anytime, and by leading them from this kind of Instagram-like situation into something super surreal. I mean, we went into the deep fake of Instagram and met the first algorithm of Instagram, and told that Instagram would create deep fakes of all our data, and we built a movement against Instagram, and the people could follow Backbone Red. And we didn't really expect that the end would be taken out of our hands, basically. But we were happy about it. And that kind of led me to a few new epiphanies about the whole situation on creating things on Instagram. Because although it seems to be very cool and interesting to question the platform over and over and over again, it's also kind of exhausting at some point. And also creating this whole live situation and directing live is so exhausting for the whole team. Sometimes we had moments or days when we decided to create or design a full new filter game from one day to the next. And it was very exhausting at some point. So we learned from this whole experience, and also know now what works better and what doesn't. So the next thing I was allowed to create was Panopticon, and it had its premiere recently, like a few days ago. And it's this. There we created a detective game, and we it looks like that. The graphic designer, the same graphic designer who worked with me on Der Kult der Toten Kuh, she designed rooms like that. And we flipped the main situation on Instagram that every account is one person to every account is one room. And those rooms she designed, and we put the people, like the actors, with green screen technique into the spaces, and in the stories they could like interact with the people, but in this frame the people could like see, oh wait, there's like a jacket on the floor, and what is in the jacket, and they could communicate with us with the direct messages. And when they said, hey, let's look into the drawer, we would send them the picture of what is in the drawer, and there is a flashlight. And after a certain amount of flashlights we got as the Zentrale, which is like the admin account of this whole game, we decided to unlock the connected filter game to it. So this whole detective game was like a 3-day detective game. People could look through those rooms, find objects, talk to the people or the suspects of the crime, and with filter games, they could solve the case. And at the end, or in the end, they had to rescue the person who was missing. And here we worked with multi-path storytelling. So every single path is worked through. So ideally, every single time someone will play this game, it will be a different reality. So here we didn't go for live directing or anything, but we built everything in advance. Every single reality is thought through. The actresses all know what to do in every single reality line. And yeah, so we are actually kind of excited what happens on Monday, because there's the next round. So in case you want to join, you can join. It's in German though. And yeah, those are like my 2 big experiments with social media and making games on social media, and at the same time, yeah, making some kind of theater there. Yeah, I think that's it, what I could say now.
Wow, thank you so much for all the insights. So would you do it again?
Yes, but
Yes.
yeah, I'm constantly learning, you know. I'm like, this is what I wanted to say earlier, like this Werther.live thing is so interesting, and I'm so happy that I could hear this right now, because now I know what all the thoughts were behind that. And it's but it's never something I like. From my perspective, this would be never my approach, and this is so interesting that there are so many different ways to use. In this case, it was only Instagram we were talking about. I mean, there are so many other different platforms, and I'm just so curious what is possible if there are many different minds from many different angles using this platform or misusing this platform. And I'm just playing around with filter games and with aesthetics and like putting people into some certain fictions and whatever and making it very interactive. And earlier you said, Paula, that you were like eating popcorn while you were consuming Werther.live footage. And I think that was also kind of interesting that this is possible.
I mean, we have to keep in mind that you are all pioneers in the fields that you're doing. And that's why I love this panel so much and the whole day, because it gives us the possibility to exchange some of the opinions and some of the approaches we all have, and you especially have as creatives. So thank you so much for the insights. I have a million questions for you, and I hope my audience does too. You can ask Laura a few of your questions. We won't have time to do millions, unfortunately, but you can write some questions down below the live chats, via email and so on. So use that chance. It's incredibly exciting what we have here, what they presented. So thank you so much, Laura. See you in 20 minutes. What Laura told us reminds me a bit what we heard this morning, to empower the audience, to create collective stories and not just impose a story on the audience. And it's the same that my next guest has been experimenting on. He runs the Schauspielhaus in Austria. It's a very well-known theater in Vienna. And at the moment, of course, they share the harsh reality of other cultural institutions. However, in 2017, so it's 4 years ago now, they've engaged in a brave and groundbreaking experiment called Seestadt-Saga. At the time, the Seestadt was a newly growing satellite city at the outskirts of Vienna. And it was a performing space for a 3-season-long show, not only 1 season, 3 seasons. And it was a real-time reality thriller. The audience mainly followed the cast on Facebook and Instagram. So again, we have social media, but, and maybe that's something new that the Seestadtsage adds, they could also arrive in person and join events with the actors. So they could go to meet some of the characters and, for example, to, yeah, just go and meet with them, speak with them, exchange political opinions. By doing so, they mixed facts and fiction even further. The story was written and adapted in live by a talented group of writers. And director Tomas Schweigen will now tell us more about this extravagant endeavor. Welcome, Tomas.
Hello, thank you, Paula. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon from Vienna. Yes, as Paula told you already, Seestadtsage is a project, and perhaps this is also like a difference to the other projects we heard about. The project was started about 4 years ago and has nothing to do with the pandemic situation. And some of the things I tell you probably will perhaps seem a little bit outdated now, because as Lotta from Werther.live said, nowadays Facebook is not like the #1 social media platform anymore. But it was for 4 years ago, I guess, so it was completely logical that we told lots of our like storylines through this platform. But before I start, I perhaps briefly tell you some sentences about Seestadt itself. As Paula said, Seestadt is a completely new district of Vienna. It was a former airfield in World War II, so much empty space there. And the city of Vienna decided some years ago to build a new district, a new neighborhood there, like out of nothing. And I think when we started the project, I think a third of it was just finished. Nowadays, perhaps half of this district is finished. So there were like construction sites all over the place, and it had a very artificial atmosphere there, because most of the building, no, every building wasn't older than 2 years. So everything was really like fresh and new. And yeah, kind of like, yeah, there was no places which were really like where you could see like a history or something. It was just like very, very artificial, kind of remind us kind of the computer simulation world or something like this. And people were already living there. I think some thousands of people were living there. They wanted to construct their apartments, but also shops, a post office, a school, and so on. And that was, we choose to set our story there. And most of the things we told in this project were placed there. So that was just perhaps some words about this district of Seestadt. And Seestadt, the name is called after a little lake. In German, See is lake in English, which is placed like in the very center of this district. I mean, it's not really a lake, it's more or less a pond. It's a very small lake, but there should be the opportunity for the people who live there to take a bath in the summer and just to have a center, but not kind of a city center with buildings, but just this lovely, lovely little pond. When we thought about doing this project 4 years ago, there was like some topics like in the media and highly discussed all over like newspapers and also social media, was just like the topics of that we are increasingly living in social media bubbles, that we are like creating our own kind of fictional real world in these bubbles, and we are just like disconnected from the reality, whatever this means. And also, as Dirk said in his introduction to this panel, Also the topic of fake news, which were starting to being distributed through the channels of social media, of course connected to the elections in the USA and Donald Trump's victory and all this rumors of fake news in social media and just like to manipulating the elections and so on. So this was a topic which was highly interesting for us, and we wanted to do a project about these topics. But we didn't just want to kind of write a proper play and show it in our venue, in our theater, but we wanted to deal with these platforms and with the social media as storytelling tools. And back then it was kind of new, I guess. There was, I think, a Norwegian social media series kind of, but more in a filmic way. But how we found out, there was nobody who really did this, like creating a fictional story and just telling the story with just social media tools. So what did we want to do? We wanted to create and tell a fictional story, which we made up, but based on real stories and anecdotes which have taken place in the Seestadt, by exclusively using existing social media platforms such as Facebook back then, Instagram, Twitter, but also YouTube, Runtastic, crowdfunding platforms, We Make It, and so on. So, and we wanted to create like a series, not just like one event, but a series. The first season was running, lasting for 4 weeks, I think 25 days, yes. And we wanted, or it was important for us that it was very much combined to our reality and how we deal with social media. So it should take place in real time. So there was not like, if you think about series on Netflix or whatever, you can decide if you wait for all the episodes and just if you are like the binge watching guy, or if you watch the episodes every week on every Thursday or Friday or whatever. But we wanted to create a series that the whole season should take place within these 4 weeks in real time. And another point, which was very important for us, we wanted to have, like we called it, it's hard to translate to English, like a walk-in series, you would say, I guess. So the series should be physically accessible for the audience, which means they could go to a birthday party of one of the characters. They could help them with moving stuff from one apartment to the others. There were like political party, how do you call it? Political events they could attend and so on. And within these events, the audience should have the possibility to get in contact with the characters. So, of course, they are fictional characters. We created them together with the authors, with the performers. I will talk later about it, a little bit more detailed. But they also can just go there, be with them, ask them questions, partying with them, and so on. So it was always a mixture between kind of this distance we experience now since we are facing this pandemic situation, and on the other hand, a kind of a nearness to the characters. So these 3 points were like our main goals, which yeah, were important for us. So for now, I just focus on the first season, because then the second season, it got more complicated, because we were dealing with all this facts, with reality, but also with our fictional, you could say, fake situations. And we increased this mixture. So the second season ended one day where we cancelled the whole project, but it was a fake. But media didn't know, so most of the media and the press, they thought we had really troubles with the story, with separating fictional parts and the reality and so on. And the third part of the series, this third season, if you want to call it like this, took place in our theater. Then it was like a multimedia project dealing with the characters you got to know before. So, but now we're just I think focusing on the first season. And what was important for us was that for the audience, it should work like in real life, when they follow their friends on Facebook, on Instagram, all these platforms. But in our case, they followed like our fictional characters. So they could add the fictional characters as friends. So of course they found out if one of the characters posted something, could be a video, photo, text, whatever, and they could follow the discussion. And as we all know, social media is a very powerful storytelling tool. So we said to ourselves, let's just use these free platforms we have. We don't create any, I don't know, technical other apps or platforms. We just use what everybody has, just the accessible platforms for free, and tell our stories through it. So, and because this storytelling tool is so powerful, you can decide if you want to share personal things, or if you want to create like a fake reality. And we did both. So, and I think most of the audience, they sometimes didn't know if this was not, if it was real or if it was fake at the moment, and we played with this. And so we kind of merged different layers of realities and fiction. So we created 8, I guess it was 8 or 9 main characters, and created social media profiles for them, with Twitter accounts and so on and so on and so on. So each of these main characters had at least one social media profile, and you could connect to them and follow through their eyes the stories. So if you are connected to several main characters, you have these 8 or 9 different perspectives on the story, on things which are happening. So, and of course, in our fictional story, all of these main characters got at some point in touch with others and had some like crisis, conflicts, whatever you can think about. So, for example, there was, just to give you some examples, there was a young student who lived in the Seestadt and started a political movement. He founded a little political party there. So, yeah, then perhaps the list before. There was a film student. In reality, she was like professional filmmaker, and she wanted to do a documentary film about the Seestadt. That was her cause, why she went there regularly, on a regular basis. There was a young family with a teenage daughter, and they moved to the Seestadt, and the teenage daughter didn't like that because the Seestadt is quite in the outskirts. So if you want to go to the city center, you need, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. So it's it's not a good place for a teenage daughter to live there, because she's like separated from her friends and so on. And this young family, the parents were actors from the Schauspielhaus, from the ensemble of the Schauspielhaus Vienna. That was, for example, reality. Just in reality, they weren't a couple and they had no teenage daughter. But if you Googled them, you saw, okay, they are working at Schauspielhaus. And if you Google Schauspielhaus, you saw, they are really existing and part of the ensemble. So we always, also creating the characters, we mixed like personal stuff and fictional stuff. There was also, for example, a jogger. We called him just Jogger. I forgot his name, actually. But you could follow him on his Runtastic profile. So you got a message when he was on his way, and then you could see his route was always the same every second day, I think. So you could decide if you want to join him, because you knew every second day he would start at 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:30. I think it was quite early. You could just join him, jogging, talk with him, whatever. So that was like some of the main characters. I think in total it was about 20 performers who were involved. Also, some performers who just lived there. There were no actors, but we just met them in a research period, and like kind of we talked them into it, and they wanted to join. So also there was a mixture between like professionals and just people living there, and took their part in the story. I think the special thing, and that was also a thing which was interesting for us, is that it's not just another style of telling the story compared to as we're used to it, but also for the audience it's completely different, because we don't like create our story and deliver it through the to the audience, and they could just like lean back and watch the movie, watch the show or whatever. But they have, or they're expected to be quite active in researching the story. Because of course, if I'm connected to these main characters, I have it just in my normal social media thread. I can see their posts, the videos, whatever. But the more time I spend to like research the connections, the more I find out about the stories, about the things which happened. And of course, we wanted it this way. We wanted to kind of experiment with this experience of experience a story. But on the other way, we wanted to keep it also simple for audience in a way of, for example, I missed the first week, and then it could be quite hard to get into it. So we had some additional kind of tools. One was a website. It was, or it is, seestadt-saga.at. Unfortunately, it doesn't run properly anymore. You can go there and you will see the things, but there's the graphics changed, and it's a little bit difficult to go through it. But we created this website with some information, but also the main posts of the characters were collected there. So you could also like look back in the posts. You could like separate it. There's some buttons of different characters, and you can just say I choose this character, and you saw all the main posts, and you could go back on this website. And the second thing we did was that through this 4 weeks of like real-time social media experience, there was a small film team, and they were like at every event, all what happened, they were there with the camera filming. I think hours of material every day. And during the nights, mostly they did a rough cut of the day. And then on Sunday, they did a little recap video about, I think, 10 minutes. So if you got on a later point into the story, you could just watch the recap videos. It's a little bit different from like Netflix recap videos. It's like a little bit more like roughly cut. But you could just watch this 10 minutes and you got just like the main plot points, conflicts, and things. And you can still watch these videos on this website I told you, but we also created, especially for this panel, we created on the Schauspielhaus website and kind of a secret subsite just for you with a short text in English and all these recap videos. And you could just like go there if you haven't done it yet and just watch them. I think the link, I can't post you the link at the moment, perhaps it's happening somewhere. It's www.schauspielhaus.at/Seestadt-Saga. Then you just come to this page and you can watch the videos. They still exist. So yes, every Sunday you got this little recap video. So if you missed something or if you got like irritated, you could watch the video and then you were like kind of updated again. So perhaps telling you some sentences on how we did it, how we created it. Obviously, before we started the project, we did loads of research in the Seestadt. It's a little bit pain in the ass to do research there because you have to go there. It's I think from Schauspielhaus to go there was 1 hour and then 1 hour back and 1 hour there and 1 hour back. But we spoke with many people living there or planned to live there, with constructors, shop owners, and so on, because we wanted to create it as authentic as possible, because we wanted to mix this reality layers and the fictional layer. So all characters we created could have just been there or lived there. That was quite important for us as a starting point. And then we decided to design kind of the basic storyline. The basic storyline from first season to third season, of course, very basic, and then we concentrated on the first season. And we did it in a team of 3 people, me and two authors, and we created this basic storyline. We created the main actors, this 8 or 9 main actors, like biographies, conflicts, why they live there, why they decide to live there, and so on. But we didn't finish the storyline, not because we ran out of time, but we wanted to keep it interactive. That was also one of the goals we had. We just wanted to make it as open as possible. We wanted to react on reactions of audience. So we made this basic storyline, and because it was real time, so every day things were happening, and many of these things, just the important like plot points, for example, we knew already. We knew on like Wednesday, 9 o'clock in the morning, this will happen, and this will be the reaction of these characters. But because we got also in contact, of course, with the audience, they posted stuff, they came to the events which were open for everybody, because one of the characters had a birthday party and he said, hey, on Facebook, for example, with an event invitation, he said, I'm birthday partying, come by, have a beer with me. And people came. And of course, things were happening there. There was like different things and different inputs from the audience. There was just one rule: the performers would just have to be always in their character. They couldn't leave the character. So and because we wanted to be still like interactive, we just had this basic storyline, and we founded a writer's room, which met every day during the 4 weeks of performances for, I don't know, 4 hours perhaps. I think 8 or 9 authors were there, and every author wrote for one character. And we had to discuss like changes, and there was, I think, 2 authors just responsible for the basic storyline, making adaptations all the time. So it was kind of also like a real-time experience for us, of course, and for like developing the story and keeping in its line, but making it also flexible and reacting to the audience. Paula is there. That means I'm talking too much long. No? Yes? Oh, I can't hear you.
Not much. You're right on time. I just wanted to remind you that we have our great Q&A, and thank you so much for the insight. I thought it was really awesome project, and I would have loved to see it, and I definitely would have been there in person. So I'm really, really excited to now open the panel. We got really great questions. That's why I'm a bit hurrying here, because we got really many questions by our audience, and I would love to address some of those questions and to ask you these amazing questions. So please, Laura, Lotta, and Cosmea, please turn on your cameras. You're very welcome to join. Thank you so much. So what I loved today about the panel is that we got like 3 very, very different approaches. We have this subjective storytelling theater piece, a classical novel. We have this kind of gamified Instagram anarchistic piece of live theater. And we have also a theater piece that mixes reality and facts and false news. I hate this word of false news, to a degree that might even, well, that's quite difficult to see through. And that's very interesting. So my first question right now would go to Cosmea and Lotta. I was wondering, when you told about Werther.live, your piece, and all the challenges that the actors had to face while doing it live, I was wondering how the people, except for chatting with the actors when they weren't on screen, how the people could interact inside the story. Did the audience have some power to change the storyline?
No, they haven't. We thought about that, but it was a real clear decision then that we don't wanted that to happen, because we wanted a play that it's given to the audience and they can watch it and they can get in touch with the characters, but not being part of the storytelling, because I think it's just a different kind of performance then.
Maybe the question to Lotta, you did also the live editing, you told me. Why did it have to be live? You could also have pre-recorded it, maybe, or is it something completely different?
We feel that it's really different, in fact, because a lot of people think, actually, a lot of people think when they're watching it, it is already recorded. So we always have to say, no, it's actually not, because we think that's the main difference between making this a film experience or a theater experience, is that it is live performed, as like the stage is not a stage in a room, but the stage is on the internet, but it's still a live performance. And like Cosmea said earlier, it changes from evening to evening. And also because we do a lot of improvisation in the piece. So and we always try to put a little bit of the day-to-day news or like things that happened on Instagram, messages that we got, put them in there so that the people actually see, oh, this is today, this is now. And this also makes it, I think, more real and even more approachable to see or now it's 9 p.m. and it's also 9 p.m. in my room and in my world. So that it's the same time and the same space.
Yeah, and interestingly, this really links to this digital co-presence Laura mentioned before, because it sounds strange and I wasn't expecting this, but there is on every evening there's a different kind of flow, and this also depends to the audience. So on some evenings the audience is really quiet and not texting with any of the characters and not commenting on pictures or stuff like that, and then there's a different drive for the actors, and some evenings the audience is really into it and really pushing it, and yeah, then there's a different vibe for the acting. And this co-presence you also have in a room when you're in a stage and you have this analog co-presence. It kind of also exists online, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
Wow, interesting. Speaking of not expecting something, I'm going to ask you, Laura. You said, I thought it was very interesting that you learned what worked and what didn't work doing the cow. And can you just quickly guide us through what worked and what didn't work?
I think one thing is like managing the time. Like you have like creating things on social media, I feel has to be practiced, and it's every time it's different, and every time the feeling for time is different. And I think I had a project before. It was a very tiny project that ran for like also 3 weeks, and but it was just one character, and it had such a different dynamic that those 3 weeks were really like someone's following a friend, and so 3 weeks weren't that crazy to stage or to have this character online and live. But the cow, I think maybe it was interesting that it was 3 weeks long, but I think we didn't really need it those 3 weeks. I think it kind of was in our way somehow. And yeah, like managing the time with the audience and managing our time and when we create what and what is pre-produced and what is not and all of that. This is something that I learned, or I'm still learning, like with every piece I make. Yeah.
That is really interesting. I'm gonna ask you, Tomas, because I think you also had well, your production was quite longer, but you also adapted it live in your writer's room. And did you face also some of the challenges Laura just mentioned, or how did it work to create the storyline live, like from day to day?
Well, I mean, it was horrible, I have to tell you, because we had quite a time of preparation, of course, but you can't, because we never did it. We did some like kind of immersive shows or stuff like that, but the challenge was we didn't know how it would work out. We worked together with some like social media specialists or whatever, but there were so many things which were happening all the time, but we couldn't like stop. We couldn't say, after the today's performance we have to fix this, because performance was running all the time, and we had like our schedule, and the schedule was horrible. It was like just little Facebooks. I have pictures, perhaps I can show it like then in the Meet the Speakers corner. Was just a wall full of post-its in a schedule, and if things happened, we had just like making phone calls and saying all the time. And for example, what we found out, we used I think Vimeo for our recap videos, and we found out because Vimeo had better quality, blah, 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 blah. We wanted not to upload it directly to Facebook because it was horrible quality. So we used Vimeo, but Facebook just changed the algorithm. So if you post things which are not like directly uploaded to Facebook, it would just be somewhere in your line. So we had this problem and we had to solve it, but we had to like solve it on the go. And it was always the things when we made like events, public events, but also people were coming. We were not sure if people come, how many people would come. and we had to like coordinate the film team because they had to film for the recap video, cutting the rough cuts during the night, getting up early in the morning, preparing everything. So it was really like 4 weeks of like Endproben, you would say, in German, but it was all the time. And after this 4 weeks, everybody was like kind of feeling very sick.
Laura is laughing right now at the moment. I think she wants to add something.
Yes. I think something that is no one mentions ever. Oh no, that's maybe not true, but those platforms are platforms with their own rules, what you just said. And you always think about crazy ideas and what you could do on those platforms, and then you are actually doing that, and then you have like this realization of that doesn't work because Instagram has this restriction, or Facebook changed this algorithm, and you're like, no, but it should work. We had so many crisis moments, like with the cow and with Panopticon last week, moments when Instagram decided that we can't text people anymore because one day you can only text 400 people or 100 times, and we were way over it. So those platforms have their own rules, and sometimes you forget that, and then you have to change your content really quickly.
They change the rules all the time, and they don't before, you know. So you just have to find out and react.
That's very important, also for people who consider to do something on the social platforms. I'm going to switch to our audience's questions because they're really great. The first question goes to Cosmea and Lotta. I have somebody who's asking how many people stayed actually in contact with the actors and after the screening. So how long did it last? Was there some contact afterwards? And also the question if it wasn't, well, but the concern, if it may have been too intensive for the actors or not.
So I'm answering the first question first. I don't have an exact number, but there are lots of people who stay in touch with the characters before and after the shows. So we had a time, there was one girl, and at some point we were not sure if she knew that this is a fake account, but she saw the play, so she should have known, and she was all the time flirting with Wilhelm. And it went over weeks, and it was really funny. Then we had a group of people who were watching like 4 performances, and they were meeting and making memes out of the characters and stuff and sending them to them. So there is actually a big number of people who are staying in touch with the characters.
Yeah, like this group, we also invited them for the last show that they can text Werther directly on his WhatsApp. So they had actually their own performance in the play as well.
They became extras. And I can't answer for the actors, but I don't think it was ever too intense. Or what do you think, Lotta?
I think expect for maybe the day, the first rehearsal we did with the live stream. There was a little breakdown that Johnny had, and we had to say, and he said, "You need to find someone else. I can't do it. It's so overwhelming." And we were like, "Johnny, you can do it. It was just the first time. We will do it like step by step." And now he always looks back at it with a laugh, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I thought I can't do it." And now even me, like someone who's not a technical nerd or like a digital native, now I can do a digital play on my screen, so anyone can do anything.
Wow, fantastic. I have a question for Laura. Somebody in the audience asked you to elaborate a little bit more on the filter games. What is it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, the filter games are something one of our actors discovered. Like this, there is this program, Spark AR, and you can do filters by yourself. So that means you choose one account and you create a filter that is connected to your face somehow, or to something on your face in some way. And you can add some kind of bubble, some here, like somewhere, and they ask questions, and you can decide on things. And we have one filter game to pretend that we hack, and this filter game was like scanning your room, and then you see flying poops flying around, poop emojis, and you have to destroy them. And when you did that, we told in the cow that they destroyed the firewall. And in another filter game, you have to have the selfie camera on, and you have to blink a certain object into another certain object. And if it's like inserted, you are one level up, and then it's getting faster. And yeah, those tiny flash games kind of we integrated in our stories, also in Panopticon.
Wow, that sounds great. I actually did the poop game. That was fun. I think you can do that too. Maybe you can send us a link. Just a question from the audience to Laura again. There is Johanna asking how you communicated with each single user. Did you use bots? Did you write everything by hand? How did you do that?
No bots, nowhere. Sometimes we wish we had bots, but we didn't have them. Everything is written by ourselves. Yeah. So we have in both games, we have some kind of administration accounts, as I said, and this is kind of the gate into this fiction and out of it. And this is mostly, we try to have it like extra diegetic, kind of like out of the fiction. It's part of our real reality and leads people in and out. And there are all the recaps happening in the stories, and there people can ask questions if they lost the thread or have no idea what's going on right now, or had to work. People have to work as well. Who forget that? And so we can kick them back into the story. And in the games, or like with the characters decided by themselves. I basically gave them all the power to create and play and improvise however they want to communicate with the people. And so sometimes they were having, I don't know, voice messages with them a lot, or texting, or we reacted on some inputs collectively in stories. So then the character said in a story like, so this and this and this person asked me this question, and I think this question is very interesting, so now I'm answering this question for everyone, kind of. So because each game was always on a mission, so, and this mission has to be solved together collectively with everyone.
That sounds really complicated. I see why you were exhausted after 3 weeks. I have a really, really great question by Chiara. I'm going to play that to you, Thomas, but please, other panelists, feel free to jump in afterwards, because I think that's a question for all of you. Chiara is asking if you, Thomas, aren't too afraid of creating a sort of addictive relationship between the audience and the actors. That's also something that I was going to ask you myself, because when we're having this fake reality, it's quite a thin line you have, and that shouldn't be crossed maybe, or does it? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was a good topic, a topic we tried to be very sensitive about, because we were dealing with, as I said, with like facts which took place in the stage start. We took them and kind of fictionalized it in a way. It was always clear, like 2 points: the dealing with the facts and the fiction, but also like we had also some rules for the performers, and dealing with like audience if they come too close, in a way, you know what I mean? So and I experienced it. I think that's not a social media thing only, because if you're dealing with like this kind of immersive performances, if you think about like Sidna productions or whatever, they also have these rules, you know. And if you, I mean, with such projects, we give the audience kind of a possibility to come closer than normally. There's no stage, there's no fourth wall, you know, so you can really like kind of touch the actors, touch the performers. So there has to be rules, and it was really clear that the performers, they don't mix like their personal profiles with their fictional profiles. And in every event, there were people from us, from outside, like there, like somewhere in the background, to just have an eye on that. And there were also people who joined the events, for example, like the founding part of this political party, this student character founded. There were people just walking in, and they didn't know that this is like a fictional series. They just thought that's an event. I go there. And we wanted to like throw them out and say, no, it's just theater, it's just theater. On the other hand, we wanted to like offend people. And it's, as you said, a small line, and we worked with little kind of flyers we sometimes gave the people where they were just written Seestadt Saga, fictional, blah, 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 blah. And then we could like also talk to them. And so, but we also wanted to keep this kind of this fictional atmosphere, this realistic atmosphere for the whole time. And it was like really a small line. And that was also the cause why we canceled the project, but we knew it before. It was a fake cancellation, but what we pretended was we just crossed the line, and people don't, they just have difficulties with like knowing what is real, what is fictional. So we just, in our fictional stories, we crossed the line. So it was always also a topic of what we wanted to experience within this, this story.
And maybe I can say that because the production is already over. You have a murder in your story, and that was something maybe at the point where I felt it switches. So this would be a question to Cosmea and Lotta. You're not dealing with murder. You're dealing with suicide, which is a very harsh and very serious topic. And in that context, mixing reality and facts might seem difficult. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, we actually had some friends of the actors react really intensely to that, because they had a personal experience with someone who tried to attempt suicide, and so that actually happened via social media or via like messages. And afterwards, we had a discussion in our group if we should put a trigger warning in the play or on the website. And then we decided to put like a little note there, and we also mention everywhere that it's based on the text by Goethe. And I think what we decided on, or what we talked about, is that most of the people know what the text is about, and that they can know what they're getting themselves into. But of course, that's not true for everyone. So we tried to navigate the line of what's okay. But I think especially the last scene can be really intense for people who have the personal experience with that kind of situation.
Thank you. I think you managed very well. I got one last question from the audience. It's for all of you, but I'm going to ask you, Laura. Did you have, well, the people hacked your story, basically, right? Maybe people aren't aware of, but the death of the cult of the death cow is actually the name of a hacking group. And that's why I named your theater show after it. And somebody asked me if you have ever problems with trolls.
No.
No.
Just no. They were all so into it. And I think there were people kind of confused because, you know, when you create those accounts, like technically, when you build those Instagram accounts, sometimes your contacts, the phone you use, the contacts there in, they are sometimes connected to some other accounts on Instagram. So sometimes other Instagram users get informed because Melissa, one of our actress, has a new account, but it's like her fictional account. And so people came in were kind of confused what's going on here. And some stayed. But no one destroyed it. There were some moments in those groups when they there were some, I think there were some moments when they weren't sure if it's real or not, or if they should like destroy the fictional bubble or not. But it was so nice. Like the other people were like, no, it's still a game. Like we can play this here right now. And then everyone was back in. And then, yeah, so this was very nice to see that no one wanted to destroy the bubble, the fairy tale.
Well, I wouldn't have expected that the people are encouraging each other.
Oh yeah, they did.
To stay in the immersive world. That's really super interesting. So yeah, I think that's a good ending for my, well, a good good ending for our panel. But I still have one last question for you that I'm asking to everybody and every speaker here in the panel. So because the motto of our conference is hope. And so I'm starting with you, Tomas, and I ask you to answer quite briefly. Everybody, if you get the same question, Tomas, if you had like one big wish, one dream as your hope for the future and for the storytelling, for the evolution of storytelling, what would that be?
Hope. That's a difficult question because it means that I have a problem with storytelling right now, and I haven't. I'm just really curious about dealing with different ways of storytelling all the time, and that is what we, especially at the Schauspielhaus Wien, is like our main goal. It's so many different ways of classical, let's say classical storytelling and kind of different storytelling. So I would just say, go on like this. Stay curious, experiment.
Thank you, great. Cosmea and Lotta, if budget aside, let's say budget and pandemic aside, what would be your biggest dream for the future for your work?
Oh, wow. It's really hard to say because, like, unless Tomas or Laura, I think we're not that much into the theater scene, so we can't say that much about how it was before. I just noticed that when we started Werther.live, we went to many, many theaters and we were presenting it to them and we were telling them like, hey, that's our concept. You're locked down anyway. It won't cost you much. Are you interested in doing it? And they were all ignoring it completely. And I would wish that the big institutions would be a little bit more open-minded for new kind of projects and not pushing it aside and saying like, oh no, we're doing Shakespeare anyway because we have the budget and we don't have to care about new ways of figuring that out. So that would be really interesting for me. And of course, personally, I wish to cross the border between film and theater a little more because they're still pretty separated.
And I think our hope is also that that they can see it as an opportunity, just like Tomas said, to be curious about the new stuff and not see it as a threat to the traditional forms of storytelling, because that's not what it is. It's just something new.
It's also maybe one of the upsides of this current situation that formats like yours can be recognized as an own art form as they are. So Laura, what would your hope? You have the final word today. What is your hope for the future?
Wow, so much pressure. I think I'd like to combine your two hopes. I really go for this curious thing, for experimenting, and also this vibe I have with this whole scene I got to know now in those few years. They are so nice humans that are so interested and who participate and who support, and I really like this vibe of experimenting, and also that it's kind of forgiving when something fails or so. I really like this vibe, and I really hope that institutions are open for that kind of vibe that's coming. Yeah.
Great, thank you. It was such a pleasure to talk with you. It was really great. And I'm so happy that you can continue, that our audience can continue to meet you like one-to-one or Zoom window to Zoom window